start this video, I'd like to give a huge shout out to CQ, who are the sponsors of this video. The app shows you if you're getting a good price on all your tickets and is hands down the best way to get NBA, NFL, and concert tickets. As an added bonus, if you use code NAC, you can get $20 off your first purchase. So be sure to check out the link in the description. Number 1. On April 14, 2010, the Warriors were getting set to play against the Portland Trail Blazers with only 8 players. During the warm-ups, the trainer sat both Ronnie Turafe and Anthony Morrow as they were both unfit to play due to prior injuries. So the Warriors entered the first quarter with 6 players on their team. Halfway through the first quarter, Chris Hunter injured his knee, causing him to sit out the rest of the game. So Don Nelson had to run a 5-man rotation for the rest of the game. Ellis and Stephen Curry were absolutely dominating the game when Devon George fouled out in the fourth quarter, leaving the Warriors with only 4 players. The Warriors argued that George should be able to play even with 6 fouls because they had no one else to play. No one in the stadium knew exactly what to do, so the refs forced the Warriors to play their injured players. So injured Turafe was subbed in to play as the 5th man on the Warriors team. On offense, Turafe sat in the corner and did not move as he was injured, while other 4 Warriors passed the ball around and tried to score on a 4-on-5. After about a minute, the coach instructed Turafe to intentionally foul, then claimed that he had gotten injured. So Turafe did exactly that, allowing him to sit out the rest of the game and forcing Anthony Morrow to be subbed in. However, Anthony Morrow copied Turafe, and in exactly 10 seconds, both Anthony Morrow and Ronnie Turafe intentionally fouled and claimed they had been injured, forcing the Warriors to sub in the already fouled out George. The refs gave the Warriors a technical for subbing in a fouled out player, but let them keep playing. The craziest part is that behind Steph Curry's 42 points, 9 rebounds, and 8 assists, the Warriors are still able to win the game 122-116. Number 2. One of the strangest games in the modern era was the Miami Heat vs Atlanta Hawks game. In 2008, it was the Heat vs the Hawks led by Shaq and Wade. There were 50 seconds left in the game with the Heat down by 1 when the scorekeeper marked Shaq for a 6th foul, forcing him to sit out the rest of the game. But the scorekeeper had made an honest mistake and Shaq only had 5 fouls. This realistically didn't even matter for the Heat as they had an 8-27 record and a loss wouldn't impact their ability to make the playoffs. But the Hawks were fighting to be the 8th seed in the East and losing could have bounced them out of the playoffs. Either way, the NBA decided that it was unfair that Shaq couldn't play the last 50 seconds, and the NBA decided to replay those final 50 seconds the next time the two teams met so that Shaq would have the opportunity to play the final minute. The rematch was scheduled 3 months later on March 8, 2008, where the two teams would meet and play a 50-second game, then restart and play their next regular season scheduled game. This isn't even the weirdest part. 2 months after the announcement of the rematch, Shaq was traded to the Suns for Sean Marion and Marcus Banks. The whole rematch was scheduled around the fact that Shaq should be able to play the final 50 seconds, and he was now playing for the Suns. So the NBA had to choose whether Shaq would play in the Heat uniform for 50 seconds then return to the Suns, or the rematch should be cancelled. In the end, the NBA decided to go through with the original plan and allow Marion to play in place of Shaq in the final 50 seconds. However, the rematch did not change the result, as the Hawks won the first 50-second game, then went on to beat the Heat again in the second game by 3 points, giving them 2 necessary wins in less than 3 hours. Number 3. Even though this wasn't an NBA basketball game, this was by far one of the craziest games of basketball of all time. On November 24, 2017, Alabama basketball, led by Colin Sexton, had to play 3-on-5 for the final 10 minutes of their game versus Minnesota. The entire Alabama reserves were ejected after the reserves left their bench during a scuffle. Another Alabama player was fouled out and another left with an injury, leaving Colin Sexton and 2 other Alabama players to play out the rest of the game. Colin Sexton went on to put forth one of the greatest individual performances in basketball history, scoring 33 points in the second half alone against a 3-on-5. On defense, Alabama ran a packed-in zone with only 3 players in triangle formation. Colin Sexton was an absolute beast on offense. He was immediately being picked up at half court and being triple-teamed consistently, but still managed to keep the game close. Unfortunately, Alabama could not overcome their disadvantage and lost 89-84 in one of the most intense games of the century. Number 4. On February season, the Bulls vs Sixers. The Sixers were down by 1 with 0.5 seconds left on the clock. The Sixers tried to throw a lob to Simmons but were blocked by Levine. Thinking the game was over, both teams went back to the locker rooms and the fans had left the stadium. Only for the refs to realize 10 minutes later that the clock never started. The refs then called back every single player to play back those final 0.5 seconds. Otto Porter couldn't even play because he was being drug tested, and half the stadium had already left. Once the officials got everyone back on the court, they replayed the final 0.5 seconds. Simmons inbounded the ball and Butler fumbled it, causing the game to end in the exact same way, only 10 minutes later. Number 6. On January 16, 2014, the Thunder were playing against the Rockets. In the first half, Harden and the Rockets were absolutely dominating, scoring 73 points and taking a 14-point lead. 73 points in a single half was a season high, and the Rockets seemed poised to finish the game strong. What happened next was shocking. The Rockets only managed to score 19 points in the next 2 quarters, setting an NBA record for biggest point differential between halves of all time. The Rockets in the second half shot 19.4% from the field and went 0 for 14 from 3-point range with 12 turnovers. Harden, who had scored 16 points in the first half, went scoreless in the second, leaving the Rockets with one of the biggest chokes in NBA history.
That is going to be all for this video. If you guys did enjoy it, please leave a like down below and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.